him say NDC amanyuku no the omo national elections ebe hihye so na immediate one na ebe di kan aba ansa na national elections no NDC amanyuku no de ahihye so constituency executives no nso be di kan akoso ama omakoyi constituency chairman ne youth organizers, women organizers at constituency level and sample na ọma be yi national chairman, national secretary national secretary ene sankrofo ni nyina. Na yebeka ya some time ago either late 2025 and say beginning of 2026 na NDC omo national committee na national secretary eda no fifi kwete the information and say announcement ebeto abontia na omo chese due to experiences omanya no over the years no sometime amountfo bi omo person omo pre national positions no na omo chese omo di omani baako ehwe toa mienu omo di omani baako ehwe omo appointee and say appointment ye dey am omo na omani baako nso ehwe national position ni mu na no na omo kire say sa particular elections omo bekoe die se wo ye NDC amanyukuo ni na opese o contest na during the time na opese o contest no o sanso ekita position in government there e was o resign 6 months before say elections no and as national elections no edru na when me I resign 6 months before ne there automatic disqualify sansem we beto abonten na manfo bi kire say said the Beya Johnson as you doing it, gain advantage in a national primaries, presidential primaries, no mobile corner, and ninety and a few quitemu at the Saru Ababeto Abontin, Asa grow Asampa. Time now could do say, a cabes 6 months, not NDC Amanukuno at the national elections, no. As she says, no, and now few quitemu the Ababeto Abontin say. Ene woda sukuta government position there na chese elections national elections no pese ubeko bi na no na amanfo chese ene amanfo bi asat now omoda sukuta positions bi ti se lawyer Sammy Gyamfi mu omunya resign no amanfo bi chese ene sese die automatic disqualify and answer disqualification ema sankofo we in some die amanfo bi akabi the afa NDC amanyuko no national elections ebekuko so ewo man Ghana mu ha ene nsem eboboba efa ehu nyina tiemo
Gold Board as acting chief executive officer of the Ghana Gold Board on obeyesa not as a result say oye member of parliament there untimi nka say resigning from the position of member of parliament but obeyesa from the position of the national communications officer of the National Democratic Congress. Enti se opese okobium now represented the NDC as the National Communications Officer for 2028 for the next presidential candidate and as a flag bearer of the NDC also resigning as Gold Board CEO and sana wako peke form. Enti Sammy Gyamfi decision also making say one also mo hwe say obi ti say chairman Asiedun Ketia and a bear the flag bearer of the NDC. Sammy Gyamfi is he well positioned? He is interested in still being the National Communications Officer for the NDC as chairman Asiedun Ketia, a bear the flag bearer of the National Democratic. Okay, some negotiations now airing koso. Nanya Sammy Gyamfi kwana sa juicy position also trading in so or standing in as a national executive officer of the NDC. Another individual so na deputy national communications officer to Sammy Gyamfi, CEO for Youth Employment Agency. I'm friend the Basintele boy in the NDC, Malik Basintele so per se either say or graduated the national communications officer and as still now or maintaining as a deputy national communications officer of the NDC, also resigning as the CEO of Youth Employment Agency. Someone resigning, a party say new faces within the NDC contesting for this position because Maleke Basintele Pese or resigning 6 months to internal elections. Other individuals on SWA, yes, say Jumai, affect oyo biti say Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. Now Godwin Eduji Tamaklo position of holding in the NDC at the national office now, director of legal affairs. Director of legal affairs. Now position Godwin Tamaklo holding currently another top position as the head of the National Petroleum Authority. Still now, the director of legal affairs also resigning as the head of the National Petroleum Authority. No wonder, say President John Dramani Mahama started to say or hint to say a lot of reshuffling by the course within the government now because a people take the decision. So back to the NDC head office. Ako contested for these national positions. While sir, ebema position in the government now are currently vacant. Inti almost replace you. Not forgetting Mustafa Bande. Mustafa Bande, Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, and also as executive head of logistics board state agency and also as direct individual Juma under general secretary Fifi Abekwete or resign either so but also indicate say Kianeke or person call Biom as the deputy general secretary of the NDC inti enya dia or person contested for the general secretary position because Fifi Abekwete am maintaining say that same portfolio and already or per se oko. Now share another one so Madam Hannah Bisu the National Women's Organizer of the NDC and also head of Public Health Authority EPA inti also per se or also contested as the National Women's Organizer or resigning from the EPA and Sana Witimi ako back to the office. Is it that Uber decided that and I say Uber maintain he say Uber say what's not sa position because omu the power inti reshuffling ni hit kosono enye asam ketwa. Not forgetting Joseph Yamin, National Organizer of the NDC and also board chairman of Ghana Sports Authority so and also ASO or resigning and I say obeying holding on to the position key decisions and Sammy Gyamfi, George Pariado, Dr. Hannah Bisu, Joseph Yamin, Mustafa Bande, Malik Basintele and many others in President Mahama's government heading into the 6 months to the veteran and I say national executive positions within the NDC. Yabasha the ebe happen heading into the position. But I'm making it clear. Say by bettina veteran of the NDC now on submitted official resignation letter and yeah dear you'll be totally disqualified for the next portfolio decision heading into the 2028 election decision of Ghana for the president of Ghana. Yanjebre Yankotie and Sanfofro regarding matters arising.
So today my take, the abuse of free speech, political hypocrisy and the limits of freedom. If you log on to social media today, you're almost immediately greeted by a toxic cesspool of abuse, reckless falsehoods, and calculated insults. Partisans on all sides have turned digital platforms into arenas for character assassination, relentlessly attacking public figures, including the president and his wife, with outright lies and vitriol. Now the state machinery has swung into motion, and individuals are being arrested and hauled before the courts for their words like never before. So far, almost double the number in 2 years than the entire administration of President Akufo-Addo, 8 years. Let me be clear. As I have maintained consistently over the years, this ugly subculture of free speech abuse must end. I don't know why you can't take on the issues rather than insult elders, people. Freedom of speech was fought and won to safeguard democracy, to hold power accountable, and to champion truth, not to serve as a license to malign citizens or act foolishly. However, my stance remains unchanged. Custodial sentences and criminal prosecutions are not the remedy in most of the cases. Weapons of state power, like Section 208 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act and Section 76 of the Electronic Communications Act, should not be deployed as criminal hammers against foolish or offensive speech. The solution lies in civil remedies, robust public discourse, and social media opprobrium. What is truly bewildering? Yes, what is truly bewildering, however, is the sudden shock expressed by politicians, especially President Mahama and the NDC. I don't know why they are shocked. Shocked over this growing trend. Really? It begs the question, why the sudden outrage? The NDC and the leadership of the current government were without doubt the biggest of beneficiaries of the misinformation and insult fest that characterized the last two elections. Yes, the last two election campaigns. Never once did they express revulsion or publicly rebuke their social, serial callers and social media activists who insulted, vilified, and maligned almost every prominent politician in the NPP, as well as respected traditional chiefs and elders across this country. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You cannot nurture a monster for political expediency during elections and then feign horror when it begins to bite everyone around you. In the middle of this saga, former Vice President and the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, issued a press release calling on the Ghana Police Service and the Attorney General to discontinue the prosecution of an NDC organizer in Agona West, who was arrested for allegedly publishing false news and making offensive comments about him. Dr. Bawumia made it clear that he never lodged a complaint or sanctioned any prosecution, reaffirming his conviction now that the answer to offensive speech is better speech, and the answer to falsehood is truth, not handcuffs, courtrooms, and crushing bail conditions. Predictably, critics have pounced on Dr. Bawumia, pointing out that he remained silent when similar speech-related prosecutions occurred under the administration in which he served as vice president. While that criticism is understandable from a historical perspective, the hypocrisy of NDC critics claiming these current prosecutions are in the name of the Republic and therefore beyond political intervention is glaring. They conveniently forget history. Back in July 2011, when the late NPP activist, he became Deputy Finance Minister. He was my mate in Legon and became my friend. John Kuma was picked up by the police for allegedly making offensive comments about the late President John Evans Atta Mills. President Mills himself directly instructed the police to release him because he was not interested in pursuing the case. If President Mills could intervene to prevent the criminalization of speech directed at him, Dr. Bawumia is entirely entitled to disavow prosecutions done purportedly in his name. Of course, he's a politician. He can see what is going on. This is being done to attempt an equalization, so that it can be said that it's not only people who are maligning and insulting the First Family and NDC politicians who are being arrested and prosecuted and put in jail, but even in the NPP, those who insult the flag bearer are also facing same things. It is my prayer that politicians across the spectrum finally digest this painful lesson. In the lead up to the last election, the last two elections, you know the people you promoted in this insult fest. You know the people you promoted who maligned everybody in this country. They respected no elder. They respected no chief. No corporate executive was spared, except their NDC. You kept quiet. You said absolutely nothing. President Mahama, most of the insults, most of the misinformation and the maligning was done in your name. You know it. You didn't pause 1 minute to disavow it. You've nurtured a monster, and now it is grown, and people are latching onto that. They feel it is okay. Please don't underestimate what the ordinary person learns from the people at the top. They feel it is right. That's why they are doing it. Please learn the lessons. This is not how to grow our democracy. Free speech is a sacred constitutional right, but it carries responsibility.